How you
Hey
doing?
everyone, how's it going? I'm Drew, here to present for the Streetlight Gaming and Online team with Anna Swigert here. This is our first time at the PGTS, and we've just really loved our experiences hearing from all of you. And I just love how hearing from Steve's experience with, what he went through growing up in that first admission and meeting that starfish by the waterfall in that, old school game, like that giant computer monitor. It just really reminded me of the heart of gaming and the connections that we try to encourage our patients and the joy we get to see unfold every day. So really excited to share that with all of you and hear from y'all's experience as well. So a little bit about us. So my name's Drew. I began at the Streetlight at UF Health program, which is kind of the mother program that the gaming and online team is housed within. I started as a volunteer summer 2013, so about a decade ago. And then after working through in Streetlight and visiting patients, getting to know them over time, I came on as a part-time staff, started managing their inventory, working with games, something kind of synonymous to game specialists, with setting up patients and getting to know them, their interests, and helping support that and set up unique opportunities for them. After I graduated undergrad in University of Florida, I went on to work as assistant director for 5 years. And it was in that time which I helped to launch the gaming league with support of our patients and staff. So at the time it was called the Streetlight Gaming League. And we've since kind of broadened that to become the Streetlight Gaming and Online team. Around 2020, I began my PhD in behavioral, social, and health education sciences at Emory University. So I'm currently based out of Atlanta. And at that time, I started working as a clinical data scientist for Streetlight to help manage a lot of their data flow with our RedCap server, the different volunteer documentation that we would get from the program, and as you'll learn a little bit more, some of the data from our online health community as well.
Hi, my name is Anna Swigert, and I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Streetlight at UF Health. I was a volunteer when I was a UF student, and when I graduated with my degree in psychology, I then moved to Atlanta and received my Master of Divinity from Emory University. My background is in spiritual care and chaplaincy. I am actually ordained in the United Methodist Church, and while faith leader and Discord manager might feel really unrelated, in working with these adolescent and young adult patients, I realized how video games can be a real source of meaning in their lives. And so it is those experiences that have brought me into this role. And I am just very excited to be here and to collaborate with Drew. Hey, Drew, I think you're muted.
Drew, I'm going to echo Anna's comment. I believe you're muted.
Oh, thank you.
There we go.
All right. I was just bragging that I think I recruited Anna as a volunteer in our undergrad sociology class. And I like to take a little bit of credit for bringing her on and helping her become such an amazing force in this program.
Yeah, it's all you.
Sorry, my dogs are also echoing my enthusiasm for Anna. So a little bit over Streetlight. It is a very unique program, which only exists at the University of Florida. We focus on 13 to 30-year-old patients who are undergoing very long or difficult hospital stays. So these are typically patients who are designated as palliative patients, which a lot of times fall under the umbrella of cancer care, or organ transplantation, cystic fibrosis, sickle cell disease, and a lot of different autoimmune illnesses too that cause very lengthy and complex hospital stays. So Streetlight really tries to build these positive peer relationships between our undergrad University of Florida Health volunteers, with the staff, with patients themselves through different inpatient volunteer visits, different hospital-based events, and community events as well relevant to their major disease population. And then, of course, with the gaming and online team, which we'll describe today. Some novel aspects about Streetlight. One, of course, that we really do focus on adolescent young adult patients. So we're following them when they come into any pediatrics unit on University of Florida. And then as they age into adult care, we can follow them too if they still are interested in seeing us. which is really nice to help cover that transition, which can be so difficult for so many patients with losing a lot of their support team and the people they grew up knowing in the hospital. It's really nice to have that familiarity. We also have a long-term commitment requirement for our program volunteers, which really helps to form those long relationships over many hospital admissions. So we require at least 2 years of service to form those relationships with patients. So we'll take volunteers when they're typically sophomores or juniors, give them a lot of different training on palliative care, disease-specific care, what it's like being an adolescent young adult and dealing with learning about your identity and your community and sense of purpose as you age and deal with chronic illness. And we really invest a lot into those volunteers as they're really at the backbone of our program. Along with Anna, we have another full-time staff, our program director, Emily Marquis, who's been with the program for quite some time, who helps to facilitate this volunteer education, manage the volunteer teams, connect with the patient care teams at UF Health. So whether that's in pediatric oncology, hematology, pulmonary, trying to embed themselves on teams alongside child life specialists and arts and medicine specialists to really provide the most comprehensive care we can for our most high need patients. The other component that makes Streetlight unique is our robust program engagement data collection. So we have a REDCap system database that any volunteer, after seeing a patient, will essentially chart their visit. So they'll talk about, I stopped in to hang out with Drew. We played Diablo 4 for a while and talked about his upcoming surgery. We talked about, his life back home and what he was interested in and different things like that, what they're going through to try to. So during our volunteer shift team meetings, before our volunteers go on the unit, we actually read the most recent chart entries to try to give them some information on what the patient's going through and try to give them information that might help them connect with those patients as well. And of course, this is all essentially funneled through REDCap, and then the daily census gets pulled by the Streetlight assistant director and director every day. It creates a census with a lot of data from previous visits, from their gaming and online team experience, and different things like that. We've also looked at the different networks. So the top right figure is a network of a sickle cell patient who we had visited for nearly 10 years. Streetlight did start in 2006. And so this is really the result of many, many visits over that time. And the kind of larger nodes are the volunteers who've repeatedly seen that patient over and over. So up to as high as 14 different times. So a lot of what we try to focus on is those repeated connections that help bring out those long-term and powerful bonds with volunteers. A little bit about Streetlight of how many patients we reach. So on average, we're seeing around 315 patients per year. Not all of those are necessarily designated palliative patients. So they might just be anyone coming in the pediatric units, age 13 or up, but primarily we focus the support on those designated patients. On average, they're staying in the hospital for around 40.6 days. They're coming into, so we're coming in to see them as volunteers on average around 12 times per year, on an average of 45 minutes per interaction. Like I said, what also makes UF Health unique is we can see patients from pediatrics to adult and on the relatively similar campus. So our volunteers on the same shift can cross over through UF Health into the adult floors as well and kind of follow patients around there. So the gaming and online team really came about as I was working through my role as a technology manager, and I was working during a time where our cystic fibrosis patients began to not be allowed to come out to our shared teen lounge room, which was a really huge bummer to a lot of our patients, especially our more popular ones who were in very often and would really just rule the roost of lounge. They would like hustle people for pool and play awesome music, and it was just kind of a home space for them. And so losing that, I realized we really need to develop something that could allow these patients to get together virtually. And so that's where gaming and online team really came in. And gaming and online team it really comprises of a lot of different moving parts within Streetlight itself. So again, Streetlight is really focused on those inpatient visitations, and gaming and online team supplements that. So I've broken it up into 4 kind of arms here with this figure with the boxes. Into our volunteer training. So that's going through the standard curriculum. They go through orientation, talk about different themes, like I had mentioned, of palliative care and disease-specific training, as well as different things about social support, reflective listening, and different emotional distress training, such as question, persuade, refer, suicide training, and things like that are also available for our team. And we also have some more directed online team moderator training about how to encourage support in this setting, how to report problems in the community, and such things like that. As well, we have the inpatient services, so that will include online gaming equipment rentals. We have gaming carts for Xbox, PS5s. We have Switches, and we've worked a lot with UF Pediatrics IT to be able to help those connect to the internet. That's been a huge process of trying to, at one point we were port forwarding within a few units that were very popular with our cancer and hemonc patients, as well as the cardiac patients. And Pediatrics IT was really phenomenal and really supporting us with that and helping troubleshoot any issues we had. So huge shout out to them this whole time. They've been so amazing to help us with that. And at a moment's notice on a Friday, helping set kids' Xboxes up, just really coming through. And then, so you have the inpatient services. These patients can connect with other patients using our accounts, which are preloaded with different gaming subscription services. And then they can also have the option to join our online health community, which is really the backbone of the gaming online team, is our Discord. So that encompasses live text and audio chat. For those of you who haven't used Discord before, we run a lot of our online events through Discord. We have a steering committee of patients on Discord, and we also moderate the server exclusive in Discord. And then the last branch is the program evaluation research. And the most important resources and stakeholders of this are, of course, the patient collaboration and shared ownership. This whole service would never have existed without patients really dreaming it to life, and with the staff, equipment, and buy-in from UF. I will say another huge component of getting our Discord off the ground was talking through a code of conduct with UF Legal and Privacy. So making sure they've vetted through that and understand that the patients know what they're getting into and know what the behavioral expectations are is absolutely key. Within Gaming Online team, over the past 3 years, we've reached 253 patients have been invited to join. Of that, around 75% do successfully join up. So it's around almost 200 patients now in Discord, with around 50 requiring follow-up. So maybe they just didn't get the link set up. We have them as noted to come back and check in with them another time. And then around 6% aren't interested. Once patients are in Discord, there are probably around 40%, 50% of patients who just lurk, which is normal kind of social media behavior. But on average, patients comment around 76 times. And there's a very high range on that. We have some patients who are very, very active in that as well, as much as total 1950 comments over time, which is crazy. As well, they spend a significant amount of time in voice chat. So around 6.1 hours on average. And again, there are a lot of patients who never go in and a lot of patients who go in very often. So just wanted to mention that as well. And I also wanted to highlight the role of our volunteers in this community. They hold virtual lounges and have really been a backbone to this whole community in general and keeping the conversations going, patients feeling supported. And I'll hand it over to Anna now to talk a little bit more in depth about the day-to-day activities of Gaming League.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. To echo what Drew said about the shared leadership model of Streetlight, as the assistant director, a lot of my responsibilities fall under gaming online team management, but I cannot emphasize enough how much of a team process this is. There's a lot of communication. I like to joke that gaming is not my native tongue. It is a language that I've had to learn, and I'm constantly learning. And so having a full community of people who are all looking into the health of this community has been really helpful for myself as a manager, but also that is the ethos of our team, is that it's really a collaborative process. So we have several different staff roles. We have 2 full-time positions, myself and my director, who handle a lot of the administrative responsibilities of Go Team. We are helped by several different part-time employees, including Drew, our clinical data scientist, who helps with a lot of the research initiatives, as well as building the infrastructure for patient tracking and tracking involvement. We also have a program coordinator who helps with some of the day-to-day responsibilities, a lot of administrative tasks and patient care. And then we have 2 technology managers who typically work shifts in the evening time. That is when our volunteer shifts are. And so they provide a staff presence there, and they are managing all of our inventory. The heart of Streetlight, though, really is this robust volunteer team. We have about 60 volunteers, the majority of which are UF undergraduate students. and they serve a weekly 3-hour shift for a minimum of 2 years. And so, as Drew mentioned, there's a lot of follow through and a deep commitment of these volunteers. And as part of their involvement in Streetlight, they are all trained to recruit and consent patients to Streetlight Gaming and Online team, as well as give out inventory. And as part of their onboarding, they are all entered into our Discord community and can engage with patients in this virtual community. Certain volunteers might want to go above and beyond and be even more involved in Go Team. And so they can serve as anchors, who are volunteers who anchor our virtual events. They help brainstorm and facilitate these online events. And then some volunteers will apply to be captains, and they are kind of the lead volunteer presence within Go Team, recruiting other volunteers to help with different initiatives, as well as really recruiting patients to participate in Go Team. And they are heavily involved in our Discord server. And as part of their responsibility, they are also involved in our steering committee. And this is an advisory council of sorts that consists of staff, these captains as volunteers, and specially selected patients. And these are patients that are over the age of 18 and formally apply to be on this committee, and they help us to kind of oversee the health of the server in our community. They will talk about, kind of review previous initiatives, brainstorm future ones, talk about the things that are going well, things that are going poorly, and new ideas so that we can really meet the needs of our patient population. As far as patient recruitment goes, so as Drew mentioned, in Streetlight, we see patients ages 13 to 30 if they're developmentally appropriate. And by this, we mean if they are at a developmental age of 13 and can consent to kind of proper behavior that is outlined in the Streetlight Gaming Online Creed. And so to enter into Go Team, patients must consent, or if they're under 18, have a guardian consent and them assent to the Streetlight Gaming and Online Team Creed, which we'll go over a little more in depth on this next slide. There are 3 major components of this Gaming Online Team Creed. This was created with the UF privacy and legal departments to really protect patient information, and kind of because it's an online presence, patients are able to meet one another, provide a layer of protection. And so there's these 3 components. The first one being a behavioral contract, which Drew mentioned earlier. It's kind of a code of conduct, and it establishes the community guidelines, and kind of an surrounding ethos of this is respect. And so it's respecting one another, it's respecting equipment. And there are certain behaviors that are outlined within it as prohibited behaviors. Some of those may include no offensive language, no personal insults or threats, no hateful language, no language or remarks about an identity group. We also commit to it being a PG-13 server, and so that includes no explicit language, no curse words, or no lewd content. And so to ensure that these community guidelines are upheld, the Streetlight staff and volunteers moderate the server. We moderate it from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays, but the server is open 24/7. And so sometimes volunteers will also additionally moderate. In the case that someone on the server violates the community guidelines, the Gaming and Online Team Creed gives them information on how to contact Streetlight staff. Part of the ethos is that as patients are committing to this behavior, they can also expect their peers to also uphold that behavior. And so if there's any violations or if there's any conflicts, that they know they can reach out to a Streetlight team member for help. And that includes via Discord private message, via phone, or if they see us in person. And then the final component of this creed is the conduct disclaimer. And so this says that any site that is not UF or UF Health has its own applicable terms and conditions that might be different than UF or UF Health's privacy policies. So the things I'll kind of talk about today, the 2 components of our Go Team is inpatient gaming and then our virtual community. To start with inpatient gaming, we have these different gaming carts available for patients to use while they're admitted. On the right, you will see what I would call like our more traditional design. We fully customize our carts so that we can also fully customize the systems. And so within this cart, within that plexiglass middle, the console lies as well as a surge protector that the monitor plugs into, and the surge protector has a built-in kind of extension cord that's about probably 10 to 15 feet to plug into a room so that when you plug it in, everything comes online at once. We're debuting kind of a newer model. I think it looks very sleek on the left with one of our Nintendo Switches. Everything is still locked and mounted and adhered to it. It just takes up less room, and patients have been asking for that. They've been wanting kind of a smaller model. So we're working on that right now, and it has a very cute Mario speaker that I'm very excited about. So to talk a little bit more about our consoles, so we have a variety of different game stations that we use. So we use PlayStation 4s and 5s. We use Xbox Series S's, and we actually just retired our last Xbox One. So we're fully new gen systems, which is exciting. And then Nintendo Switches. And these three types are all within those gaming carts that you just saw. The Quest, because it's all held within one unit, that is locked in our office, and we bring it out for specific patients who have an interest in it and are available and can do it. All of our gaming systems are able to go online. They also have these Streetlight operated accounts per system that are friends with other systems, the other Streetlight operated systems, so that patients can play with one another during their hospital admissions, or if they like, they can sign into their personal accounts. And we find this is really helpful and important for our patients. It's also why we have this diversity of game systems, because we feel like it's important for patients when they're in the hospital to be able to play the game systems that they play at home and play with their friends at home. Because we see a lot of these designated palliative patients, their social systems can become really fractured coming in and out of the hospital. And so being able to connect with those same friends is really important to us, and for them to be able to attach themselves to their same sources of meaning when they're at home. Similarly, we have games that are rated E, E10, T, and M. As a reminder, all of our patients are over 13. And what we found is that our patients that were 13 to 18 were playing these M games. Those are their preferred ones. And so as part of our recruitment process, we will do an inventory release with their guardian to ensure that they are okay with them having access to these libraries, because the game libraries, we use Game Pass for Xbox, so there's kind of Xbox's most popular games, and then for PlayStation and Nintendo, we have the most popular games downloaded. And so if parents consent to them having this full library, then they're able to receive those game systems. So to couple kind of this inpatient support, we really wanted to look at ways to connect with patients outside of the hospital, because the reality with our patient population is that they're in and outside of the hospital so much. And while they can feel really supported in the hospital, when they go home, they can feel really disconnected. And so we worked with UF privacy and legal departments to create this virtual community that we use Discord to facilitate. Discord is a text, voice, and video communication service. It's an app that you can download on any device. And it is fully customizable with different chat channels and voice channels. And within our Discord, all of these channels are really about AYA interests. It's about video games, cooking, movies, the things that they are really passionate about. It's a private server, and so only consented patients and active volunteers and staff have access to it. And as mentioned in the creed, it's fully moderated by Streetlight staff. So once they have filled out the Streetlight Gaming and Online Team Creed, they're able to be invited to Discord. Only staff has this invitation, and we're able to send it to patients either by text message through our hospital-affiliated phones, or we can add them on Discord as friends and then directly add them to the server, or we can always email it to them if they prefer. And then once they enter the server, we use a bot called Me6 in our server that has these pre-programmed commands and customizable features that when a new participant joins Discord, this welcome message shows up. And so it gives just a little welcome, as well as a link to a video that was created by our steering committee that talks about how this community works, the importance of it, why it exists, and then it also gives a walkthrough of Discord. So a big part of this walkthrough is this welcome channel. So we have about 47 chat channels and 7 different voice channels. And that is a lot of content because we have a really diverse patient population with a lot of different interests. And so we utilize an opt-in notification system where patients can opt into the content that they want to see so that they do not see the content that they don't want to see. So this is an example of what this welcome page looks like. In addition to this, there's a whole section on video games. And so patients can react to what consoles they have, as well as what video games they enjoy. But this one is the first one, and it's all of these kind of non-gaming related interests here. And the way it works is each interest is paired with an emoji. And if a patient wants to get content for one of these interests, they can just react with the emoji below it. So for example, anime has that little hat emoji. And so at the bottom, you can react with the hat if you would like to receive anime content. We have about 31 patients who have done that. And they receive the role Animaniacs for this one, which gives them permission to see the anime channel. So the Discord is open 24/7 for patients to engage with, but to increase more engagement, we do these different events that can take different forms. So we do some in-person only events where this kind of includes systematic recruitment of our patients that are admitted at the time. We'll identify what patients might be interested in an event and bring in extra volunteers to go see them in their hospital room and connect them to an event that spans the entire hospital. I will also say that we don't do these in-person only games as much anymore because it's pretty easy to add an additional online component. And so most of our gaming events have become hybrid options, actually. We will also do online only events, and these are specifically through online, and admitted patients can join, but there isn't the same like systematic recruitment process as there are for these in-person events. For these online events can also sometimes use like an online interface that isn't as co-op in person. So an example of this would be like Jackbox games, if you're familiar with those, or a game called Gartic Phone, which is like Telestrations. And it uses a web browser that then people can just join on Discord and use. Or some online only events may also include more niche interests. So like Animal Crossing is a good example of this, where kind of the vast majority of patients in the hospital aren't necessarily interested in Animal Crossing. And that game requires a lot of pre-work to then attend an event, but there are patients that are really interested in Animal Crossing. And so it's more of these personalized invites to patients that we think might be interested in them, and then all connecting online wherever they're at. And then as I kind of mentioned, hybrid events are, I would say, our most popular events right now. It's the one that we kind of go to the most because it both cares for our admitted patients and ours at home. So it involves both the systematic recruitment process in the hospital of identifying patients and connecting them with volunteers, as well as a person who is kind of facilitating the online folks to join in as well. So this is kind of an example of our fun events. We call these daily events because they occur on a specific day and at a specific time. So they're synchronous. You have to join in at a certain time. And these were all events that we did over the summer. So we'll have some of these hybrid events. So a good example of that is Overcooked, Mario Kart, and Super Smash Brothers. Those both had a really significant inpatient presence. We had for Mario Kart and Smash, both of those, I think we had around 10 total patients who participated, and then like 20 or so participants, which includes staff and volunteers. And then we also did these online events. We did a Pride Parade on Animal Crossing in June, and then we did a Gartic Phone event. So these are some of the examples we've done, but we do some other tournament styles like Fortnite, Mario Strikers, and these are very fun because they're very competitive, that patients really get excited about being able to compete against other patients and volunteers. But we also do other kind of cooperative games as well. We do have a Minecraft realm that allows up to 10 participants to join. That is open 24/7 too, so patients can join and create their little world as much as they would like. Or during certain times of the week, we might all get together at a certain time to do some specific task. These daily events can sometimes fit within these seasonal events. And so these seasonal events are different campaigns over a span of time. And so these daily events can fit within it. There's these synchronous components of it. And there are also these asynchronous, which are different prompts for patients to engage on the server whenever they like. A good example of this is we have done these Go Creative campaigns, and these involve a lot of creativity amongst our patients. We will do these things called creativity challenges, where patients, they answer these kind of fun get to know you questions of like, which boy band would you get rid of? And like, what's your favorite fall good? As well as posting pictures of the things that they've created. So we've done, we are currently actually in a fall Go Creative campaign, which is exciting. And then we've also done more gaming related ones. And so we do the winter games and the summer games yearly, which have these creativity challenges embedded within, but there's also points for attending events as well as posting screenshots. And so there is both this synchronous and asynchronous quality. We do offer incentives to our patients as a way to promote engagement. We are really mindful to keep this as fair as possible, and so we don't want it to ever deter the pro-social engagement, but these incentives can get patients excited and really want to participate. And we have a couple different ways that we do this. A really traditional way is that patients get a prize for placing in a tournament, so that's first, second, or third. We've also done ones where if it's like a seasonal campaign, if they attend a majority of the events or complete the majority of challenges, then they can receive a pre-selected prize. But what we've been doing more often is giving patients a lot of autonomy and allowing them to gather points and then redeem them for prizes. And so here's an example of some of the prizes that we have done. So we've done like gift cards to specific consoles or specific games, perhaps, as well as different like Streetlight swag items that they get really excited about wearing. A really sweet story though, because I think when we think incentives, there's the fear that, oh, patients are only doing this then to get stuff. And we had a really cool situation over the summer where there was a patient who amassed a ridiculous amount of points. I mean, he was so engaged. And at the end of the event, he calculated out how many points he could give to each of the participants below him on the leaderboard so that they could get the prizes that they would want. And so out of that, we've actually enacted this donation facility, like a donation process, so that if a patient has excess points or if they just want to give all their points to other patients, they're able to. So I just wanted to give kind of an example of a month with Streetlight Gaming Online team. This was our calendar for July, and we had committed to doing an event per week for this. So you'll see there were events, Mario Party, Overcooked, Super Smash Brothers, Gartic Phone, and Family Feud that happened at different times in the week to gather different patient populations who might be busy at certain times or have different interests. And then throughout this, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we posted creativity challenges for them to participate in. And all the while, they were able to post victory screenshots in specific channels. And so just another offering that we give via Go Team is tabletop RPGs. This is something that our patients have really been asking for, and it's been kind of at the heart of Gaming Online team for a long time. We've been doing it since 2018, having different tabletop RPG sections. And we've offered a variety of different game styles. So we've done Monster of the Week, Space Aces, and Dungeons and Dragons. And the game masters of these different events have been a variety, actually. So we've had staff facilitate, volunteers, and patients actually facilitate some of these tabletop RPGs. Right now, there's not a current Streetlight member who is trained as a GM, and so we've actually collaborated with Arts and Medicine, who has a artist in residence who is proficient at literary arts and storytelling. So he is actually GMing for us and branded it as Go Mysteries. And it's been really special to see the relationships that have formed in these sessions. We had a D&D group that the campaign lasted 9 months, and it was patients. There was about 5 or 6 patients who had never met each other. But over the course of these 9 months, they became so close that they actually would travel in person to see each other, to hang out. And they're still best friends, and they like help each other move into their new apartments and stuff. So yes, it's about gaming, but at the end of the day, it's about these connections that can form between patients. And I'll give it over to Drew to talk through the research stuff.
Thanks, Anna. I just also want to give props all of the fantastic visuals that you've seen. That's all Anna's artistry, and she completely like stepped the game up for the program after I left with my very limited Microsoft Paint skills. And so but I'll talk a little bit about what I've gotten into in lieu of my lack of artistic skills. We've been trying to produce different research publications for the program, as we found that that's been such a key driver in our ability to maintain funding and support Typically, we are funded through Children's Miracle Network grant supports, and our institution has definitely pushed us to further evaluate the program and disseminate it to larger audiences. So one of the first ones we did on the gaming and online team was on the patient engagement over time in relation to our different online events. So we love the engagement from our online events in our community, but we really wanted to put a test to whether or not these events were driving patient engagement, because that is such a strong predictor of whether or not patients really feel the deep social bonds within online health communities. You have to talk and participate to be able to really make those bonds for the most part. And so what we did was we broke it into daily events, which you can see here in the second to the bottom graph. These little dots at the top where it says event present 1, those are the days where we would hold a single daily event. And then these bars here, the gold bars, are when it's the top level, those are the times in which we were hosting a dedicated seasonal event. And then the top bar here, you can see the daily comments broken down by Streetlight status. So the pink bars here are patients, the green one is staff, and then the blue is volunteer. In the early days of Gaming Online Team, you can kind of see how much green and blue there are. It really felt like starting a fire in a way when you were building this community. You're going in, you're talking all the time and trying to really drum up engagement any way you can, checking in with the community. And I remember one day driving across Florida to Jacksonville. It's like maybe like a 2-hour drive. I put my phone down, and when I had gotten out, I checked my phone, and suddenly there were like 300 Discord notifications, and patients were like talking back and forth and sharing different stuff. And it was kind of at a moment where I realized, okay, there's some real momentum here now. It's not like, I'm constantly blowing on the flames, keeping this fire going. There's a lot of different activity being generated here. And when we essentially looked at all of these, we implemented some multi-level models at the patient level to see, okay, on the days we have a daily or seasonal event, what is the change in patient comments per day? And we found that on average for daily and seasonal events, they were associated with around 20 to 30 additional patient comments per day. And that was just a really great way to help us understand that these events were driving support. And we could also look at how differences in daily active users, so the increase of staff and volunteers, would also help increase patient comment rates by around 9 to 10 comments per additional user in the chat. So these features of the diversity of users in chat and the different events are really driving a lot of the patient engagement we're seeing. We've also looked at, so Dr. Kelsey LeBeau, who works at the VA and Community Health Services in Gainesville, she did her dissertation on the Streetlight Gaming Online Team. And during COVID, we helped her access interested patients through our Discord channel. And we were able to get them to interview with Kelsey and complete a survey on their experiences in the community. And we got some really amazing feedback from this. We found that patients overall really enjoyed their time in the Gaming Online Team. They talked a lot about how unique the experience of being an adolescent young adult is at the hospital, where you're a little bit too old from like the Winnie the Pooh wagons and stuff like that, but you don't feel old enough for adult yet, because that's just a really scary land. So they talked a lot about that uniqueness of that situation. Again, they talked about the fun they had in Gaming Online Team, how they looked forward to it. They enjoyed that, kind of as Anna talked, they got to opt in to the different content they're interested in. And so that was a really big component of it too. They weren't just inundated with random notifications about an anime show they don't watch, if they didn't want that. They also expressed their appreciation that they were able to participate as much or as little as they wanted to, which is a huge theme in Streetlight. We try to tell all of our patients that even with in-person visitations, we're here as much or as little as you want to. This is your control. They found that it was a great reprieve from illness, but paradoxically, it also really gave them solidarity in illness. So one of the main reasons in titling the Gaming and Online Team as such, we didn't really want to label it a support group or like an illness support group. It was a place where people can go and experience the things they love to experience with people who have had similar life experiences, and just organically let those deeper conversations emerge, which is what we found to happen. They also talked about the sense of community and family-like community they experienced, definitely demonstrated through Anna's story with our D&D group. I remember one of our patients also mentioning that they had gotten their mom to drive to a nearby Starbucks to help connect to the Wi-Fi just for those tabletop RPG sessions. And since then, we've actually been able to get some funding through the FCC to send patients with different internet hotspots to help kind of make up for that lack of connection in more rural areas. And finally, the patients did talk about the mental health benefits of the server and that it helped them feel better. Straight from one of our patients in the study here had talked about how just the act of engaging through Streetlight and D&D and movies, playing Among Us, feeling that they're not as depressed anymore, feeling that they could get their mind off of what was going on with their illness or the really difficult things they were going through. And they talked about, I love this initial quote as well, mentioning that they're really the only true friends I really have, and I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. And I'm just really glad that this community exists to allow patients like that to meet and those friendships to grow. Finally, before we get into questions, I do want to mention kind of where we're looking at in the future. So number one is to offload some of the work of Anna's on managing the Discord and the online events, and by doing that, hire a full-time gaming online team specialist. So we're applying to the Duncan Connecting Joy grant application for that, and definitely hoping for the best from there. We're also writing up a feasibility study in progress through trying to do a longitudinal data collection process with patients where we could assess pre and post Streetlight baselines. The goal with this would be to scale it up to multiple hospitals in the future. Because this has been so embedded within UF Health, our leadership believes that this is not something we could ethically individually randomize. In that case, we'd be withholding stuff from a patient that is offered to everyone. And so the feasibility study is looking to see how many patients we can recruit, how well they are able to respond on multiple repeated measures to really get a sense of program impact. And we're also looking at staff information too, by interviewing them and volunteers of what does it take to run a Streetlight to help inform other hospitals and sites that would be interested in partnering with us. And we are really looking for that now, and that's definitely a big goal of ours. So if you are interested in collaborating more in any way or being a part of this, we definitely would love to connect after this as well. Cool. And now I guess we'll take any questions. I saw a lot go through the chat, so I'm going to try to go through and answer the best we can.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, number one, excellent work, guys. I think that, we here in Colorado have a strictly pediatric healthcare facility that we operate in, and to know that you guys are serving pediatric through adult is not only commendable, but so necessary. And it's so great to see how you've spanned that gap and done it so well. So kudos to you guys, number one. And yes, there are some questions. We got a few minutes before our break here. You may have answered some of these questions in some way, so just fly through them. You can moderate if you want, or I could just throw them at you. But the first one is, how did you get your hospital to approve a Discord server for patient use regarding HIPAA concerns, conversation issues, things like that?
Yeah, that took a lot of different meetings for sure. And a big part of that, I think, Discord being making a private server that it's staffed, it's moderated by staff. The code of conduct definitely helped to be able to really outline, what are we want to make sure patients are fully informed and know what they're joining, know the expectations are. They helped us craft a lot of the language behind, they being UF legal and privacy, around, the terms of service with Discord, and kind of making them know that as moving on to that different app, this is not owned by UF. This is a different application process that has their own API and data collection stuff. So that was a big role in it. I think the fact that Discord can be so anonymous is really helpful. Like, you can change your username to whatever you want. It's not connected to your identity in the way Facebook or maybe Instagram can be. I think that really helps them understand in that way. And also I think that it's not public is also helped them kind of see that this was possible and wasn't something that was such a big liability as much, that there was more benefit than there could be liability.
And there's a lot more questions around the consenting and forms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the big thing is, Bonnie asked if you can share your release form specific to the Discord.
We should be able to share the creed. We can send it through email if anyone. I put our emails here, and I'll drop them in the chat. If anyone wants to reach out, we should be able to send them through there.
Yeah,
and we'd be happy to do so.
I think that would help answer a lot of questions for people in terms of like the sort of back end paperwork side of it. Carlos, of course, says, "I'm not crying, you are." That's great.
Yes,
I guess that's some great testimonials in there for sure. Great
and
way to build
I have to
community.
give props. The Discord idea was one of our patients who had used it as a GM and introduced me to it as I was visiting him. And again, just there's so many aspects of this that really came from our patients, and really happy to be able to honor them and sharing this stuff with y'all. I know that would make them really excited.
Well, I love that you said that this was built not just for, but by patients, is addressing a felt need, which is the best way to do it, because then it's actually addressing a need that's out there.
Absolutely. I also wanted to mention, Anna had talked about our moderation hours of like 9 to 9 p.m. There's also language on the creed around, if a concern is not met immediately, that it'll be within 24 hours on a weekday or at the end of a UF holiday / like 48 hours for weekend. So it does allow, it's really important for the staff who are moderating this to really be able to turn off and take care of themselves and just be able to say like, look, the mods will at some point go to sleep and that's going to happen. And that's, part of the expectations. And it's definitely helpful to have more eyes on it than just one staff person. Also, the volunteers is definitely important. And when there are situations where maybe a patient is in crisis or something, we have the infrastructure to be able to get that information to their healthcare team in a way that you wouldn't really have access to if you didn't have them in this sort of community, which I think is really important. And just for any professionals at this conference, just those boundaries are so critical for our role, because as fun as the job is, we do see a lot of really difficult situations. And I think it's really important that we all support each other and support ourselves in this work.
I will also add, our patients take a lot of responsibility in moderating. And so sometimes there are times where before I can even come and address something, our patients are protecting one another because they know the ethos of the server and know the community guidelines. And so a good example is that there was an interaction between two patients where it felt like one patient was making like a romantic advance at another patient on a public channel. We work with teenagers and young adults. That's the MO. And before I could even come in and address it, I was watching it happen. Our patients really surrounded this other patient and was able to say like, oh, like that's not cool. Like this is not the place to do that. And so that has helped relieve some of that burden, is knowing that we have these patients who really value this community and are willing to protect one another to make sure it's very safe and welcoming and inclusive.
That's excellent. Last question before the break here that I'll sort of combine a few that I saw in the chat, which is sort of around that area of boundaries, but like age boundaries, sort of patient, whether or not, like, for instance, one of the questions was, number one, are there opportunities for kids under 13, if any? And then in this specific thing that you guys have developed, and then how do you address people who are no longer patients for a certain time period or what have you? So sort of those two, parts of the spectrum, how would you address those?
So do you mind if I take it, Drew?
Absolutely.
So because I'm the one that has to kick them out of the server, which is painful. So we do not see patients under 13. They are seen by Child Life, and there are availabilities through them. They don't have the same ways to connect with one another, but they're not under our discretion, so we don't have opportunities for them. As far as when do patients like age out of Streetlight or are no longer considered patients, we consider someone a patient until they become a volunteer, and that has happened in our past. Because our patients are designated palliative, there's this constance of illness that they never really stop being a patient, whether or not they might not be admitted for a while, but they're still dealing with those complications of chronic illness. And maybe if they don't have a chronic illness, this can still be a really supportive community for them. And if they find a connection to it, they're probably still seen by UF Health providers. So just because they're not an admitted patient doesn't mean they're not a patient for us. So they're able to stay in the Discord as long as they are maintaining the community guidelines. It becomes trickier for us when they turn 30. And so when they age out of Streetlight, they no longer receive Streetlight services on their 31st birthday. And so some of that is communication with them. Because we see a lot of those patients admitted, we are already having those conversations of kind of graduation from Streetlight. And so once they are no longer able to be on the Discord due to their age, we will like send out a personalized message to them, kind of outlining like, hey, like we've been so thankful for your involvement in this community. You've been a really great community member. You know, we hate to see you go, but we wish you so much on like your future journeys. So we're trying to figure out if there's like a legacy way that we can do it, if there's a way that people can like leave their legacy within the Discord when they graduate. But that's kind of our protocol, and then we kick them out.
Got it. Yeah, at some point you have to have those boundaries to keep this thing to its expressed original intent of what you guys do with it. So my friends here in Colorado, help me thank once more Anna and Drew. You guys did an excellent job. Keep up the amazing work. Everybody, we're going to head into a break right now. It's about an hour, a little shy of an hour. Head into GatherTown, get some food, do whatever you need to do. And we'll see you guys back. Drew, was there something else you wanted to say?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone for their time listening to us, and thank you all for putting on such an amazing conference and done such an amazing job moderating this for everyone. It's been really, really inspiring.